Check one, check two. Check one, check two. I want to wish everybody happy Sunday. Trying to get a little of my motivation up. We about to get started here shortly. If you got any questions, you can just throw them in the chat or any statements, you can just put them in the chat. Once again, we're going to start off with the introduction to cybersecurity. As you can see, we're going to go over chapter 2, malware and social engineering, which is still common and still relevant today. So we're just going to go through the slides. Like I said, if anybody's got any questions, storm in the chat or any statements, we just go back and forth. Y'all can drive the actual presentation. I mean, I can go any way, either route. So it's not a big deal to me. Once again, happy Sunday. So let's get started. We're going over malware and social engineering. Once again, it's introduction to cybersecurity. Obviously, at the end, there right there, you just said for the cybersecurity plus certification, you probably need to do a little additional studying. Obviously, I'm probably going to add some additional material and some more videos to help you study. Going to A plus, Security plus, Net plus. Wow, I see you, man. I see you, Al. That's pretty aggressive, man. But I'm here to help you. All good. If you got any questions too, just let me know. This is chapter 2, as you can see, malware and social engineering. Let me get going. Oh. Attacks using malware. Everybody know what malware is. That's one of the standard viruses is. We're going to go over a ton of viruses in this chapter. So malicious malware is malicious software, as you can see. Enters a computer system without the owner's knowledge or consent, using a threat vector to deliver a malicious payload that performs a harmful function once it's invoked. Malware is a general term that refers to a variety of damaging or annoying software. Right, so everybody hears this malware, virus protection. The cool thing, of course, is over the years now, everybody's got virus protection. It actually comes with your PC, malware protection. So that's standard stuff in today's world of cyber criminals, crypto attacks from nation states, right? The basic thing is virus protection and malware. Malware can be classified by using the primary trait that a malware possesses: circulation, spreading rapidly to other systems in order to impact a large number of users; infection, how it embeds itself into a system; concealment, avoids detection by concealing its presence from scanners; payload capabilities, what actions the malware perform. Right. So when you look at all the attacks, Kaseya, SolarWinds, right, there was a particular payload, and when it got once the virus got in, then it when it got the payload, right, to do a certain attack. Right. But those are the big four: circulation, infection, concealment, and payload capabilities. Two types of malwares have primary traits for circulations are viruses and worms. Viruses. Computer viruses, a malicious computer code that reproduces itself on the same computer. Program viruses infects an executable program file. Macro, which everybody's familiar with that a lot of times on Excel, and a lot of the checks I do is we make sure when you click on that in your email, the macro won't execute. Right. So we make sure the macro won't execute inside your email. Macros is a series of instructions that can be grouped together as a single command. The common data file virus is a macro virus that's written in a script known as a macro. The virus infection, appender infection, virus appends itself at the end of the file. It's easily detected by virus scanners. So if you look at there, that's the jump lines at the top. So the program obviously is in that weird, I'm gonna call it orange. Then the file virus is what at the bottom, right? That's the appender, right? The virus appends itself at the bottom. It's usually one big block. So of course the virus scan can say, "Oh, I see it. We got it. We can block it." Most viruses today goes to great lengths to avoid detection. Those are called armored viruses. Some armored virus infection techniques include the Swiss cheese infection. The virus themselves into executable code. Virus code is scrambled to make it more difficult to detect. Splitting virus splits into several parts placed at random positions in the program code. That part may contain unnecessary garbage due to mask its true purposes. Mutation. Some viruses can mutate or change. And allomorphic virus change internal code in one of a set of number of predefined mutations whenever executed. A polymorphous virus completely changed from its original form when executed. A metamorphous virus can rewrite its own code and appear different each time, right? Because you gotta remember those virus detectors are out there and those patterns. So those patterns are trying to figure out if that's a virus or not, right? So you want to mutate yourself, right? So the virus scanner can never figure out if that's the virus. So that's the Swiss cheese virus. As you can see, it's in once again the orange. It's spread among the program itself. So right, you decrypt there. Right. So inside the program, it's going to jump to execute itself. So now when the virus scanner tries to figure out what what the virus is, right, it's got to figure out where the virus is inside the program, right? Now that makes it more for basic virus detection to figure that program out, right? So that's the Swiss cheese one. So now we can talk about the split infection one. It's to me it looks similar to the Swiss cheese, but if you see the program, it it jumps a little more randomly. So you got the program, you got the part A is at the bottom, part B is at the top, part C is in front of part D, and part D is at the virus, right? So that makes it a little harder once again for the virus scanner to detect it and figure out what's happening, right? So that's why when you get the more expensive virus detection, right? Because people were getting more savvy with it and how to put viruses in code, so it makes it harder for the people to find the virus, right? So that's the split infection. So viruses performs two actions: unloads the payload to perform a malicious action, reproduces itself by inserting its code into another file on the same computer. We saw that, right? It was showing you the Swiss cheese, how it was in the same computer in multiple places. Example: virus actions cause a computer to repeatedly crash, erase files from or reformat a hard drive, turn off the computer security settings. Viruses cannot automatically spread to another computer, relies on the user actions to spread. Viruses are attached to files, and viruses are spread by transferring infected files. Right, so a virus expects you to click on the file to activate it. Right, this is one of the big deals about a virus file. So now we're going to talk a little bit about worms, right? So there's a difference between a worm and a virus. Me myself, I kind of lump them all together, but there is a difference. Especially if you're sitting for the test, it's definitely going to be a difference, right? A worm is a malicious program that uses a computer network to replicate, send copies of itself to other network devices. Worms may consume resources, leave behind a payload to a harm and infect a system. Example of some worm actions are delete computer files, of allowing remote control of computer by an attacker. Right. So most people now they don't delete files, right? If they're gonna do anything, or if they're gonna encrypt the file so they can sell you the key. And the rootkit, right, allowing the remote control to actually take over the computer. Right. That's still super common. So let's talk about what's the differences between a virus and a worm. Let's kind of go through this table and it kind of works through it. The action, what does it do? A virus insert malicious code into a program or data file. A worm exploits a vulnerability in the application or operating system. How does it spread to other computers? User transfer infected files to other devices. Uses a network to travel from one computer to another. Action doesn't affect the file. Virus, yes. Worm, no. Does there need to be a user to action for it to spread? Virus, yes. Worm, no. Right. So those are the kind of differences between a virus and a worm. Right. Three examples of malware have primary traits of infection: Trojans, ransomware, and crypto malware. Right. Crypto's so big. Crypto's out there in the wild. Right. So crypto malware, kind of what's happening. Um, So those are the three examples. Once again, Trojans, ransomware, and crypto malware. So what is a Trojan? Trojan is an executable program that does something other than advertisement. It contains code that launches an attack, sometimes made to appear as a data file. Example of a Trojan is user downloads a free calendar. Program scans system for credit cards and numbers, transmit information attacked through the network, right? So it was supposed to be a free calendar, but it was just doing some other stuff in there. What's up, Dave W? Helmet, Chillin' G, once again, it's on. Salute on the daily. Yeah, I'm trying to make Sunday for a little while at 3 my day until football start regular season, and we got to figure out what we going to do. But so, yeah, welcome everybody. If y'all got any questions, once again, jump on. We're just going over malware and social engineering today. That's the topic. So once again, a Trojan, you think you're downloading a free calendar, but the free calendar is going to steal your credit cards and your program. It might actually open up your computer for remote attack. Special type of Trojan, remote access Trojan, which is called a rat, gives the threat actor unauthorized remote access to the victim's computer by using specifically configured communication protocol, right? So that's the big one, right? We jump the rat, you leave, I can take over your computer and kind of do whatever I want. Well, I take that back. I can do whatever your permissions of your login allows me to do, right? Because I'm going to take over as you. Ransomware, of course, that's the big thing right now. Of course, that's where you can buy ransomware as a service. You can actually rent it from the dark web. You can actually attack a company. They take a 30% bid, or they take 30% of your profits. Right? Why would they do it? Why would they let you do it? Because if you initiate the hit, right, when the FBI come, they're gonna come to your IP addresses of where you coming from, right? So for them, you're just gonna send them some Bitcoin, and they have nothing to do with you, the FBI, the CIA, CISA, and all of that, right? So that's why they do ransomware as a service. So they just take a cut. So ransomware prevents a user device from properly operating until the fee is paid. It's highly profitable. We all know that. A variation of ransomware displays a fictitious warning that the software license has expired. If there's a problem, you must purchase additional software online to fix the problem, right? So the second one is they act like they're gonna do ransomware. They act like they got some naked pictures of you, right? And they want you to pay, right? So ransomware, of course, is the big kahuna right now. It's kind of taking over the planet. Ransomware is showing basically that the United States is not very good at cybersecurity, especially like cybersecurity and locking down PCs, locking down servers, right? Because we don't have meat packing companies, JP, the gas pipeline. We don't have so many ransomwares. It's just really hard to really keep track of. It's really kind of hard to comprehend how how bad we sucking at ransomware. Once again, this is the fake one. Your computer has been locked. The operating system is locked due to violation, right? Sometimes that's what the ransomware looks like. That's the screen you can get. All right, so this is the fake one because they got the FBI logo up there. Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation, right? So that's them trying to trick you, thinking that you're doing something wrong and the government's going to come down on you. Right? And the sad part is a lot of people fall for this, especially a lot of old people. They usually fall for the IRS scam or we about to cut your gas off scam, right? So this actually shows ransomware. If you look on the side where it's got the malware name, it's slowly encrypting all their files on their machine. I've actually had that actually happen to a machine of mine. I just actually, it was one of my dark web machines, so I just actually just erased it, degouged it, make sure wasn't nobody hanging around. But so that's what it looks like. They encrypt everything on your hard drive, and after a while, your machine won't work because it's going to encrypt your video cards and everything. So salute on the daily. So the renters of the ransomware reap the benefits. I mean, if you can get away with it, that's true. How good are VPNs? VPNs are pretty good, but if you look at the system, there's probably been 4 VPNs that actually had big security holes in them. So since the VPN actually had a 0 days attack, if you were using those VPNs, you would get actually, um, found out because those VPNs was actually leaking information. I think there's been about 4 VPNs this year that's actually had 0 day attacks and big time vulnerabilities in there. So, but that's good. Good VPN could hide a lot of your stuff though. Good VPN can hide you. So crypto malware is a malware malicious form of ransomware where threat actors encrypt all the files on the device so none of them could be opened. Once infected with the crypto malware, the software connects to the threat actor's command and control servers to receive instructions to update control. Locking the key is generated for the encrypto file, and the key is encrypted with another key that has been downloaded from the CNC. The second key is sent to the victim once they pay the ransom. Right. So that's the command and control crypto. I mean that's the standard thing. But the cool thing now, once again, is um, virus protection is much better. Malware protection is much better. That's kind of out the box. Even the open source stuff is pretty good. So that's actually from a smaller thing is kind of helping us. So that shows you the crypto locker, that what it's going to look like. It shows you the time that's left that you have to pay the bad guys before they delete your stuff. Your personal files are encrypted. Time left tells you that. Then it shows you the public and private key in the red and kind of how that would operate. Yeah. So the thing is, if you pay them, would you get the key? Would they keep the key? It seems like when you pay the money, you would get the key. The only bad part about it is a lot of times people think probably a year later they're gonna come back and try to hit you again. But it seemed like I have not seen where somebody paid the money and not get the key. That's something I have not seen. So it seems like if you pay your money, you're gonna get the key, which is cool. So because the people not get the key right, and people will stop paying. So that's I guess an even trade for a thief, right? They lock your machine, you give them the key, then right, you can unlock your thing. So this is the big one right here. Rootkits. Rootkit software tools used by attacker to hide action of the presence of another type of malicious software. Hides and remove traces of the log and records and the log entries. So the big deal right here is trying to actually get to your log files. So if you're doing a SIM or a log files, we try to actually move those log files to a different machine, right? So we can do our analysis or keep track or whatever we're trying to do. But we try to not keep the same log files on that same machine because we know hackers are going to try to get them. May auto replace operating system files with modified versions that are specifically designed to ignore malicious activities. Users can no longer trust their computer that contains a rootkit. The rootkit is in charge and hides what is occurring on the computer, right? So that's a big deal. So let's see, help. I've seen people say Windows Defender is pretty good compared to antivirus on the market. Do you agree? Yeah, I think Windows Defender is pretty good because if you look at Microsoft's whole uh, zero trust as a service, Windows Defender is actually kind of the linchpin of that. So they actually put a lot of investment on that. I need to look to see if they have if the commercial is the same one as the enterprise version of Windows Defender. I usually, because I work in corporate America, I usually use the enterprise Windows Defender. So I don't know if there's a difference between the commercial and the regular Windows Defender just for a commercial versus enterprise. So I need to follow up and see if they are the same. I'm not 100% sure if they're the same. So if you look on the screen, it shows you the two files, one with the rootkit on and one with not. The cool thing though is a lot of the virus protections do look for rootkits. Some of the most commonly used rootkit kits that are being used. So if you look on there, it's four files on the one on the left, and you see the rootkit files. But if you look at the ones they're viewing on their files, they only see three, right? So that means the rootkit's taking over and it's only showing you what it wants to show you, right? The cool thing too with a rootkit is a lot of times it'll use a little more CPU than normal. So a lot of times we track the CPU of our machines and we're like, okay, there's nothing running on this machine. Why is the CPU usage 50% or higher? Right. That means the rootkit is doing something from behind the scenes. So a lot of times we look at CPU usage on our machines with some of our SIM type technologies, or when we build stuff, we have to check the CPU out there to make sure. Hopefully, there's nothing rogue running on it. Even though you can't see the program running, it it never thinks about changing the CPU usage screen. You would think malware could actually change the CPU usage screen. I don't think they think that deeply though. So if it's doing something, you're like, well, why is nothing running on this machine? There's no batch jobs, but my CPU usage is through the roof, right? So something's running on this machine, right? So that's one way we kind of keep track. So it's called behavioral things. So what's the behavior of your machines most of the time? What's your basic CPU usage? Ooh, right. So there's base things you look at. What's your base memory usage? Right. So those things you should be able to keep track on certain projects, right? Certain applications, right? There's a base usage. So if it's higher than that by at least 10 or 15%, something else is going on that machine, right? It could be a legitimate bash job or something running, but it could be something malicious running, right? So those are some of the things you should keep track of, when you get to that level of sophistication in your organization. Destructive power of malware can be found in its payload capabilities. Primary payload capabilities are to collect data, delete data, modify system security settings, and launch attacks. Right. So one thing that I know that Windows Defender can do is it can set a baseline of what attaches to your Active Directory. So on Windows Defender, it could say these are the security settings should be. If they're different, don't let that machine connect to our network. Right. So that's one part of zero trust is what is the baseline of the machines I'm letting connect to my network? What's the Windows OS level? If it's below a certain level, don't let this machine connect. These are the base security settings. If there's something different, don't let this machine connect. It could be something that somebody did wrong, but it could be something bad. So don't let that person connect. Tell them to come in the office so we can review their machines. What's up, C. Hogan? Did you hear the hackers hacked the Vax appointment system? And bro, I did not hear that, man. I'll go check that out. Thanks, E-Hope. I'm trying to stay in the United States, man. We got so much bad stuff in the United States, but I'm not trying to go around the world. But yeah, the other things is vaccination. They're selling fake vaccination cards on the dark web, right? Because they're gonna make you start showing vaccination cards when you travel, especially if you're traveling out of the country. So I need to get with you, see how I'm gonna have you check over my system and stuff. I'm trying to upgrade my system and my production. I'm about to hit 500 users, so I'm about to upgrade some stuff. So I'm gonna make an appointment with you. Throw you some cash apps so we can go over my stuff. So I'm trying to get some new mics and some get my lighting a little better too. But different types of malwares are designed to collect important data from user computers and make it available to attackers. The type of malware includes spyware and adware. Right? Adware was real big in 2000s. I don't think people use adware. The only thing I thought people might use adware too is right. We're on YouTube. You can actually use adware to make your views go up super high, make your users go up super high. Right? We hear about people buying and selling, users and time, right? So that's one thing you can actually use adware for, right? It's spinning up AdWords, just spinning up views for your videos, right? So you can make your videos go super high, right? So that's one thing you could use for AdWords. Oh, Kobe, all good. All good. Thank you for doing the series 63 plus. Oh, I enjoy this, man. This is me giving back to community. If you got any specific questions, just throw them in the chat. I'm actually going to put all of these into a introduction to cybersecurity and security plus kind of intro, getting you ready for a test. So I'm gonna put all these videos in one playlist, and also too, I'm gonna start putting some labs in there with them, so we can see some labs online. Spyware and keylogger, right? Spyware, software that gathers information without a user consent, right? Obviously, it's spying. Users, the computer resources are the purpose of collecting and distributing personal and sensitive information, right? So we talked about spyware and keeping track of your resources, right? So if it looks funny, you will know what's happening, right? Keylogger captures and stores each keystroke that a user type on a computer keyboard. Attacker searches the capture text for any useful information, such as password, credit card numbers, or personal information. Right? So, shout out to Tiny. Congrats on passing the Big Dog CISSP. So I need to do that too. So welcome. Uh, Keylogger captures store each keystroke that a user types on a computer or keyboard. Attackers search and capture text for any useful information such as password, credit card number, or personal information. A keylogger can be a small hardware device or a software program. As a hardware device is inserted between the computer keyboard connection and a USB port. Software keyloggers are programs installed on computers that silently capture information. The advantage of software keyloggers is it does not require physical access to your computer. Often installed as a Trojan or virus, it can send captured information back to an attacker via the internet. Right, so that's one big deal is like when you typing stuff, is it tracking you? Is somebody stealing the keystroke? To they can see what website you are on, and they can match that to what keystrokes you're putting in, right? So if it's your bank account or your crypto or your stock or stock account, right? All that stuff, you can keep track of all that and kind of figure it out. So the crazy thing is, if you go to CNET, they actually have software keyloggers actually on CNET. There's a ton of open source software out there that actually that you can get off of CNET. So CNET, here's one of the common keyloggers out there. Ecosoft keylogger, so it shows you how to set it up. It shows you the screenshots at the top, keyboard, screenshot, website, chat, Skype. So it can tell you can tell it to capture everything, or you can tell it to capture certain programs, right? So that's one of the standard keyloggers you can get off cnet.com. And that's kind of weird that you can just go download a keylogger from a site, right? But you know, new time, new place, right? So everything's available. So this right here is going to show you the hardware keylogger. So like you said, you have to physically put it there. So somebody would have to be in the office or a certain attack from a person, right? So nine times out of 10, you're going to use the software keylogger, right? So that's what you're actually going to do. So my man C Hope was in the box. He does an excellent website on how to get your setup, how to use your proper setup for your software, how to get the proper lighting, how to get the sound effects, how to get the countdown. So if y'all go check out my man C Hope. He's killing it in the game. Like I said, I'm gonna have to visit him and get my production worthy of the fellas is showing me love. I gotta tighten up on my production a little bit. So adware program that delivers advertising content in a manner unwanted by the users. Typically display advertisement banners and pop-ups. They don't really do that anymore. That was big in the 2000s where you would see all these banners pop up. So they don't really do that as much. Users disapprove of adware. Adware can display objectionable content, frequently pop up. Pop up ads can slow your computer. Unwanted advertisements definitely is a nuisance. Right? They don't really do that as much as they used to do that in the 80s, but that used to be, like I said, real big once upon a time. So deleting data. Most of the times now people don't delete data. That's a little too noisy. People are usually trying to steal something. So most of the time people don't try to delete data from anywhere. Payload of other types of malware deletes data. A logic bomb, computer code that lies dormant until it's triggered by a specific logical event. Difficult to detect before it's triggered, often embedded in a large computer program that are not routinely scanned. Right, so and you can see that a lot of times too, especially when you did the some of the big hacks, right? So they're putting stuff in the third party vendors, and the third party vendors install it on your system, right? Then you have these logic bombs that kick off, right? Then they start trying to take over your system. So some of these can be in your system for a year or two before they actually become active, right? A lot of nation states are playing chess and we playing checkers. So they actually do it over a longer period of time, right? So backdoor, modified system security. So what is a backdoor? So backdoor gives access to a computer, program, or service that circumvents normal security to give programs access. When installed on a computer, this allows an attacker to return at a later time and bypass security. The things a lot of times, especially in government sites and big time sites, is programmers will put backdoor in their program so they can actually fix stuff without going through the normal process. While I work for the Department of Defense, if you put in a minor change, it's going to take at least 2 days. So what happens when you put a minor change into a government organization, right? We have to review the change. You got an executive board that okays that change or that new functionality. You have a review board reviews the impact of that to your system, right? Then usually you have a change window when you have to put it in the system. Then they usually have to cost how many hours it's going to take you to put that in there. Then to make sure it works properly, right, we got to put in a development test, QA. Then we usually put in an integration test with all our other software to make sure it won't break to something else. Then we release it to production, right? So a lot of programmers say, well, let's stick, if I can put a backdoor in there, I can go fix something small, right? Because I'm 99% sure it won't break anything, right? But the problem is if the programmer puts the backdoor in there, right, the hackers can find the backdoor. So a lot of times those backdoors were put in by our programmers and the hackers found it out. Right. So why did the hackers find it out? They didn't lock it down. They left open a port, right? Then the scanner found it, right, when the hackers were scanning our system. Or the hackers stole a code and just found it, saw it in the code that they stole, that there was a backdoor in it, right? So there's a ton of ways to figure out how backdoor is in. But once again, for us, it's usually put in by developers or operational on their team, right? So they won't have to go through the whole system development life cycle to get a system change, to get a simple change in. Also, bots or zombies, all right? An infected computer that's under remote control of an attacker. A group of computers are gathered into a logical computer network called a botnet under control of the attacker, the bot herder. Infected computers wait for instructions through the command and control structure from the bot herder. A common control mechanism used today is HTTP, which is more difficult to detect and block. Why? Because everybody uses HTTP. It's pretty common, right? So that's where you get your bot. So the weird thing is, I'm in the Midwest and I was talking to people from the FBI. They were actually taking over small farmers' computers than attacking big state agencies. Why? The farmers didn't have any computer security because they didn't think they had anything valuable on those computers, right? So, helmet, red tape can actually help in some. Oh no, don't get me wrong, helmet. I think the red tape is necessary and it does help because um, the red tape for us is the testing process, right? So the testing helps to make sure there's no bug. And the big companies, part of that red tape is you got to send that module to security so we can review it and make sure if you're using any other packages or open source software, we can make sure all that stuff is good before it gets into production. Now, Helmut, don't get me wrong. Now, I don't want to make you think I was upset with the red tape, the red tape was, I understand why they did it, but we do need red tape because um, that red tape too gives you peer review in case you got a junior programmer. He could be actually adding a security vulnerability in his code. He might be taking input without validating it. He could be entering some kind of web service call and it's not using the proper ciphers for encryption. It might not be using FIPS 140-2, which is government approved encryption. So, no, Helmet, you are correct. The red tape is actually helpful. We just need to get better at programming because I've done that and stuff. I did a little change and I put it in and I actually broke something with my little change, so I had to do it again. So that 2 days became 4 days. No, Helmet, you are correct. We do need that red tape, right? The red tape's gonna hopefully let security look at it. We get to review it, make sure it works in our organization and in that architecture. Okay, type of attacks. We're going to talk about the type of attacks and the description of those attacks. Um, Spamming. Facts. The easiest is never usually the best, right? And two is a lot of times when I talk to my boss, he said he wants it painful because you need to be testing all your stuff. We call it development unit developer unit testing before you even send it up. So that gives you time to make sure you focus on what you should be doing, right? So you can get it right the first time. Now, all good, Helmut. Spamming. Botnets are widely recognized as a primary source of spam email. A botnet consists of thousands of bots enabling an attacker to send massive amounts of spam. Spreading malware. Botnet can be used to spread malware and create new bots and botnets. Bots can download and execute a file sent by the attacker. This one, manipulating online polls, because each bot has a unique internet protocol IP address. Each vote by a bot will have the same credibility as a vote cast by a real person. So like you said, so that's why people are trying to match to get the online voting going on, right? Because each bot's going to have its own IP address, right? So you can have bots around the world, right? So each one of them could theoretically look like its own person, but we can usually tell by IP what part of the United States or what part of the world, right? Because if you're using any of the big WAF applications, they can tell you we're gonna block Africa, Canada, right? So you can tell what nation that IP is coming from. Denying services, botnets are a flood of web servers with thousands of requests and overwhelms it to the point that it cannot respond to a legitimate request, right? Denying a service is what? DOS or DDoS, right? We distributed. You have multiple bots all over the world sending petabytes to your machine, right? And your machine cannot operate. So this is the big one. I almost says a big one. Social engineering means of gathering information for attack by relying on the weakness of individuals. Social engineering attacks can involve psychological approaches as well as physical procedures. Right. So social engineering is a lot easier. Why is it a lot easier now? Because everybody has Facebook, everybody has Instagram, everybody has Twitter. I'm trying to get my Twitter game up, by the way. But with all those different social medias, I can look at those, look you up, and I can kind of figure out what you like to give you a spear phishing, right? So if you send me Vodka, Oracle, and Java in the post, I'll probably click on that, right? Those are my three favorite things on the planet, right? So it's easy to figure out who your boss is, what your sister name is, right? Because we put all our information freely on the internet, right? So the psychological approaches to goals, and that's part of social engineering. What are the psychological approaches? To persuade victims to provide information or take action. Attackers uses a variety of techniques to gain trust without moving quickly, provides a reason, project confidence, use eavesdropping and diversion, and make them laugh. Psychological approaches often involve impersonating, phishing, spam, hoaxes, and water holes. Right. So now with the deep fakes, everybody's familiar with deep fakes, right? I can actually put your face in a video and make it think it's you, right? I can take your voice, put it on there, right? Modulate their voice, so I can make it sound like you with deep fakes. So these social attacks are getting more involved and more sophisticated when you add that level of attacks into that, right? And so those are big deal. I think I did 2 videos on that where people were actually using those deep fakes to impersonate presidents and ex-girlfriends and all kind of stuff, right? So deep fakes is, kind of the newest attack in that approach of, impersonating, right? So I can impersonate your boss voice over the phone, right? Because I got a video of him speaking somewhere. Now I know his pitch and his setting, right? Impersonation attack pretends to be someone else. Help desk, repair person, IT support manager, trusted third party, fellow employee. Attacker will often impersonate a person with authority because the victim generally resists saying no to anyone of power. Right? People get scared when they think it's their boss's boss. Right? I got to stay up on my stay up on. Barely know about the deepfakes. Yeah, Helmet, it's a ton of stuff, man. I try to put videos out on a lot of stuff. It's constantly changing. It's hard to keep up. I agree with you. There's just so much stuff out there. But yeah, the deep fakes are getting better. I don't know if that's good or bad. Probably bad for us, right? Probably bad for us. I'm definitely with you. Gotta keep up. Gotta keep up. Phishing. Send an email claiming to be from a legit source. Tries to trick the user in giving private information. The emails and fake websites are difficult to distinguish from those of legitimate. Variations of phishing attack is spear phishing, target specific users. Whaling, target the big fish. Phishing with a V, instead of using email, using telephone calls instead. About 97% of our attacks start with phishing. Right, me getting some information about you. What's up, B Dub? Mainstream media uses deepfakes. Some I believe that. I mean, deepfakes is just so prevalent. I think the mainstream media gets faked with deepfakes a lot more than them actually using them. I think people trick mainstream media with deepfakes because they're not very sophisticated in their tools yet. Here's the fake PayPal email somebody got. So we actually look at it at a high level. So that's it. It looks legitimate. So it's the PayPal. View the details. Um, PayPal.com. PayPal. So that's a phishing email. So if you see it at the bottom, so I think there's a couple of misspellings in there. And two, if you hover over the links, it would actually show it's not actually going to PayPal. It's going like PayPalZ.com if you hover over the links, right? Because that'll actually show you where it's going. So that's a standard PayPal phishing, PayPal, somebody trying to get your information. So when somebody sends me something, I always go to the actual website that the person is trying to fake me. If somebody send it to me, I'm not clicking on it. I don't trust anybody. My boss be like, "Did you read that email?" I said, "Nah, I thought it was a fake, boss. My bad, man. It looks suspicious. You didn't write it well, right?" So I'm trying to be doubly tricked. Because the security, if we get tricked, that's going to look bad. So I be doubly checking on stuff before I click anything. So spam, unsolicited emails, primary vehicle for distribution of malware. Sending spam to a lucrative business. Cost spammers very little to send millions of spam messages. Filters look to specific words or block email. Use graphical images of text in order to circumvent text-based filters. Often contains nonsense text, so it appears to be legitimate, right? So the crazy thing is anybody clicking on spam? They've been sending out a billion billion emails of spam. I'm like, I don't think I've clicked on any spam in the last thing. Somebody must be clicking on it though, right? Because they still sending it out. So that's always the weird part to me. Is it working? Is it working out there? So that shows you. This is the image of spam that's coming up. Shows you. If you look at the top, it's of course Viagra. If you look at the ad, that doesn't look like a real website. It's an image, so a lot of times it's the image, right? It's hard for the image to pick up. So if an image in our text, I always say, okay, that looks a little suspicious. That's the nonsense text at the bottom. So those are some of the things to look for when you're actually looking at spam. So the next one is hoaxes. What is the next big hoax? So a hoax is a false warning, usually claiming to come from IT department. Attacker tries to get victims to change configuration settings on their computer to allow the attacker to compromise the system. The attackers may also provide a telephone number to the victim to call, which will put them in direct contact with the attacker. So I'm sure you're seeing a ton of videos on that. People actually talking to attacker trying to get them to get hacked. I think a company actually did get an Indian company who was actually hackers. They actually hacked the hackers, which I thought was interesting. They got their phone numbers, figure out what they were at. And they start dropping rats and malware on their computers, right? To try to, well, they actually did hack them. So it's just common now. So another term, which is called a watering hole attack. Um, a malicious attack that is directed toward a small group of specific individuals who visit the same website. Major executives working on for a manufacturing company may visit a common website, such as a parts supplier to the manufacturer, right? So that makes you seem legitimate when you get on those sites, right? You understand the industry, you understand the terminology, you understand those group of individuals, right? So you're more likely to get them to click on something if you're talking their language and and in the term, especially if there's a big convention coming up, right? So that's attacking a certain small group of industries that you understand and you know. Yeah, I see a guy on YouTube attacking the hackers who use the IT support. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. Shout out to them. I saw that. So the crazy thing is just so many hackers out there now, so many people trying to jump on that bandwagon because there's a lot of educated guys in the small countries. The only way they can really believe they can make a decent living in that country is what, by stealing, right? True, exposing the hackers, right? That's the crazy part, exposing the hackers. Two of the most common physical procedures. You don't really see these that much. That was dumpster diving and tailgating, right? You very rarely see dumpster diving anymore. Dumpster diving is actually digging through trash to find information that can be useful in an attack. Electronic variation of dumpster diving is using Google search engine to look for documents and data posted online called Google dorking. So let's kind of go over that. I worry about this. Why? If you look up a company, you look up job posting, most of those companies are super specific for what they're hiring, right? I'm looking for an Apache guy. I'm looking for an Oracle guy. I'm looking for this guy. You just told me your whole architecture on the back end when you do that, right? So me looking at your posting, I can figure out what technology you're doing. And a lot of times when big companies win a big contract, they post who the agency or the company was who's using it. I was on Amazon. It shows you go to. I think I was going through virtual desktop. I was trying to figure out what's the difference really between a virtual desktop and VDI from a security perspective. Amazon listed their top customers for virtual desktop. So I got okay. Now I know all the companies that use this software, right? So if I want to attack them, right, I know how to attack them, right? So that's the Google part, right? So I can figure out what your company's using and how to attack them. That's how the Palm breach of yep, 2000 the evidence was from this. That's true. It hits the dumpsters for you. That is true. That's true. But see, I'm old enough where I remember Google just came. People, you can Google stuff. You actually have to look in the company's manuals, right? So you had the IBM manual or the Oracle manual, and you were just trying to read it. There was no Google. So what happened is they would throw those old manuals in the dumpsters, and people would figure out, okay, this is the older version. They must be using a newer version, right? But like you said, now the Google part came is you can kind of Google stuff and see what people because too is a lot of companies they send their best guys to conferences to speak. Oh, you speaking on this and your guys there? I know you're using that now, right? So I know how to attack you and what you're using at your company. So this once again, this slide is talking about dumpster diving. I don't think it's super relevant, but items you can retrieve: calendars, inexpensive computer hardwares, memos, organizational charts, phone directories, policy manuals, and system manuals. All that stuff is now online, right? I don't need to go to dumpster, right? A lot of times calendars are just in the open. They put them on their open website. Right. Memos, organization charts, a lot of stuff is online, right? Phone directories, policy manuals, and system manuals. All this stuff online. I just got to figure out what you're using, and you told me because Amazon put it on their website. So tailgating, that's more from the physical standpoint. So tailgating, following behind an unauthorized individual through an access door. I work for a lot of government companies, federal companies. They always give you a badge, right? So you badge in, but if somebody runs up behind them, do you close the door? Do you ask them to see their badge? Do you beat them up, right? An employee could aspire with an unauthorized person to allow him to walk in with them, called piggybacking. Watching an authorized user enter a security code on a keypad is called shoulder surfing, right? So there's different ways physically. A lot of times I wouldn't shoulder. I would just stand there and act like I'm texting, and I would just be videoing what he typed on his phone, right? So I can actually take a video. You think I'm texting? I'm taking a video of you when you punch in your key, right? So there's different ways to do that. I don't really do a lot of physical security, but there's different physical attacks you can actually do to get that, right? Malware is the malicious software that enters a computer system without the owner's knowledge. Malware that spreads includes computer viruses and worms. Ransomware prevents a user device from properly and fully functioning until it's paid. A rootkit can hide its presence or presence of other malware on the computer by accessing lower levels of OS. Different types of malwares are designed to collect data from users' computers and make it available to attacker. Spyware, keylogger, and adware, right? So those are some of the different ways of attack. I think the last summary, a logic bomb is a computer code that is typically added to a legitimate program, but lies dormant until it's triggered by a specific logic event. Backdoor gives access to computer program or service that circumvents any normal security protection. A payload of malware software that allows infected computer to place under the remote control of the attacker, known as a bot. Multiple bots can be used to create a botnet. Social engineering means of gathering information for an attacker from an individual. Types of social engineering approaches include phishing, dumpster diving, and tailgating. So that's it, fellas. I just want to kind of come in through about an hour. That was actually week number 2, social engineering and malware. So I think I'm gonna end it there. I want to appreciate everybody coming. So I think I'm gonna do Sunday at 3 for a while. Like I said, introduction to computer security and like security plus questions gonna be on there. Once again, thanks for coming. And I think I'm gonna shut it down. Everybody have a great week. Let's go get it.